Ray Lowry was, whenever we played up north, Ray would be quietly sitting in a corner, a very shy man, until the music started, in which he would demonstrate his huge passion for great rock and roll, and in particular the Clash. He loved them.
I just remember his enormous vitality and his enormous compassion for other people. And of course his great creative drive, which he kept until the end.
Well, he was definitely one of a kind, and we spent a whole Clash tour in the States. He came with us on tour, sending images back to the New Musical Express. And there was one particular period where the band decided to fly, didn't they, in Texas. And we spent 3 days on the road. And there was Johnny, myself, a few other people, the Gallaghers, and Ray. And he was just especially loved. He had the passion.
Ray loved rock and roll, and he kind of liked the rock and roll life, but in fact he was a very quiet man, and he almost burned out doing that and withdrew to his hotel room to draw, because, as Robin was saying, you know, his work was the most important thing to him. Sure, he liked the music, he thought he liked the lifestyle, and while some of us seriously did like the lifestyle, actually it didn't sit very happily with Raymond. He couldn't keep up the pace. He was a quiet living man, and he took the first opportunity really to bugger off back to his little rain-drenched shack in the Pennines to work up the sketches that we'd watched him doing on the side of the stage, sitting out in the stalls, empty stalls, during a sound check, and back in his hotel room late at night. As Rob says, he was always working, always.
He was a driven man, there's no two way about it. He was the most driven man I've ever come across.
No, I'll tell you one other who was driven as much. We'd just come out of a couple of months in the studio in Islington with a record producer called Guy Stevens, who was a beautiful, driven man who every molecule in his body was
the same molecular structure, as you so rightly say.
It was, and he was very much an extrovert man. Lowry was an introvert, but they ran on the same kind of program, which was everything was designed to produce the greatest music, but not just Baby Baby I Love You. Ray had a social conscience, and I guess that is why he was drawn to the Clash. And if you read his writings, you realise how politically motivated he was. And that gets forgotten in days now, where people go, the Clash, great rock and roll band, iconic. It was about social change, about people questioning authority. And Ray bought into that whole mores enormously. What do you reckon?
Yeah, that's what the band was about.
Yeah.
A very crucial part of what the band was about.
And do you think this show catches a little bit of the spirit of Ray and the band?
Without a doubt, and I'm very, very pleased indeed to be here and to see it.
He's lingering around every frame and on every nook and cranny, except I would say he'd have been out the door already.
The off licence?
Yeah, or the nearest pub, just to be quiet. You know, he'd find the attention a bit overwhelming. He was not a gregarious man in that sense, but I think he would be. He'd have that quiet, satisfied smile around his chops. Yeah, it reeks of Lowry, especially the new work.
And what do you think he'd like the idea of the foundation? Do you think he'd be embarrassed by that, or pleased? Or?
No, I don't think he'd be embarrassed by that, because it's really not something to be embarrassed about. It's extremely appropriate that there should be a foundation, and he would never have suspected there would be such a thing.
No, I don't think he was a bloke who ever. A terrible self-publicist, the worst. Never blew his own trumpet. But one of the things that he kept firmly in his inside pocket was the fact that he had no artistic training. And he was kind of gauche about that. And when people would say, well, you know, you're just a cartoonist, you know, he'd take that fully on the chin. Those of us that knew him knew he wasn't that. We knew he was a painter and an illustrator, a very competent artist. But he had no training, and he was a little bit touchy about that. So I think somebody getting a bit of training on the back of his dead money, good for them.